Hello, souls. This is Kathleen here, owner and lead therapist here at Soul Awaken Skin Therapies, and I'm really excited to be doing this video for you all today, especially for the YouTube community. So, as you know, I upload a video every single Wednesday at about 6:15 a.m. Australia time, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to actually do a question and A. Now, I do a lot of live videos over on Facebook and Instagram. It's something I've really loved doing, jumping on live and talking to you about all your skin questions. However, I wanted to do this one especially for YouTube. So I'm really excited. I have a whole heap of questions ready to go. And if anyone does come on live, I know I'm really just starting my channel now, so I've got a very little audience. So if we do have someone on board, please say hi. That would just be amazing. But nonetheless, I'm going to jump through all these questions. Really excited to be here for you today. So before we get into it, I just want to remind you that, of course, if you do want to consider subscribing, please go ahead. Then you don't miss out on future videos or you don't lose my channel, as well as hitting the little bell icon, because that just means you get a notification once I have posted a video. So let's jump into it. So I have a whole list here. I'm going to be looking over to my phone and jumping in and just giving you my answers straight from the heart, based on skin science, based on experience here in the clinic. As you will know, I'm a skin therapist, a holistic skin therapist, and a corneotherapist who specializes in treating acne. So I do know a thing or two. I've done a lot of extra courses, and I just love treating this skin condition. So let's get to it. All right, so the first question is, how long does it take to heal acne? And I thought this was a fantastic question, because at the end of the day, most of us really want to know the answer to this question. So I wish I could just say it takes this long, but it really is never that simple of an answer, as you're probably understanding. So acne is an inflammatory skin condition. It's multifactorial. So there are so many factors going on, and it really depends on the person who is being treated for the skin condition. And of course, we have different types of acne. We have non-inflammatory and inflammatory. So we need to consider both is it inflammatory or non-inflammatory, or is it internally driven, or is it externally driven? And we need to really look at all those factors to really even just take a guess at how long it is going to take to treat the skin condition, because even with all of those factors in consideration, in my clinic, you know, I go through a 90-minute consultation with my clients, and even then, I don't always give them a bit of a suggestion on how long this is going to take. I've done that in the past and always felt so bad when something kind of comes up, because it's never just an upward getting progress type thing. It's kind of like you get a bit of progress, something in life happens, so maybe a huge amount of stress. And then it's like a little bit of progress, and then we stop being so consistent with our skincare routine, just for an example, or a binge weekend of lots of the bad foods that you're meant to be avoiding, or anything like that. So there's so many factors, but to give you a rough estimate, for non-inflammatory acne, so that means it's mainly just comedones, so blackheads and whiteheads, you might know them as comedonal acne. Oh gosh, could be about 6 months, but that really depends though. Is there internal conditions involved? What medications? What's the entire picture? But I'll say about 6 months with that. And then if we're looking at inflammatory acne, we might be looking at a little bit longer, somewhere between 12 months and 18 months. However, let me just mention this here. I have seen inflammatory acne heal in much quicker timeframes than this. And it's really hard to predict. One client that comes to mind, we've almost completely cleared her acne in about 3 months, but it did just pop up recently. So that was a huge, really quick result. But then as soon as she had a lot of stress in her life, the acne came back. So it's a very arbitrary question, and I hope that I have kind of summed that up for you. The most important thing that you need to take from that answer is that it is so individual. The more consistent you are, the more work that you do internally, the more open-minded minded you are, and the more you just continue reflecting on your journey. And essentially what you want to be doing is being really gentle with yourself, giving yourself grace, and essentially just looking at everything and not pinpointing everything, just kind of going with the flow, feeling really okay with your journey so far, and working on your mindset. That's so important. Thank you. I'm going to jump to the next question. What can I do at home to heal acne? Well, I want to let you know I'm actually going to answer this question in next week's video. So stay tuned for that. I've got a whole video where I'm going to talk about all the things you can do to heal acne at home, because I've seen it before. I've helped clients with it. I have a lot of online clients, so that's just an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to jumping into that one with you. What ingredients should I avoid if I have acne? This is a really good one as well, because it's often when acne is present, we start to think about, this is on my skin, it's on my topical, it's on my face, right? And we start to think, what are all the things we're touching with our face? So we start to think about makeup and skincare, and it's very, very easy to go into that cycle where it's like, well, what ingredients should I avoid? Is it this one thing causing my acne? And I really do promote for you to, instead of taking this very, very zoomed in approach to your skin, to actually do a little bit of a zoom out. I find that specific ingredients is never really helpful. Hear me out. And that's because every single acne client that I look after, they're so different. So different. And we have to really consider their genetic skin type, the skin conditions present, their lifestyle, their job, their behavior, their psychological condition, their hormones, their gut health. All of these things are so unique to this one person or yourself. So it's really hard to say that, a blanket term, let's just avoid this ingredient altogether. I do have some ingredients that I would say you should avoid. So such as, you want to avoid fragrances as much as possible when you have acne, because they are pro-inflammatory. And if you have an inflammatory skin condition, best not to use them. Same with emulsifiers. They can be pro-inflammatory as well and just be damaging to your skin barrier. But I wouldn't want to really include any other ingredients, because it really depends on your specific case. So instead of looking at ingredients, I want you to look a little bit more, not so, zoomed in, but I want you to zoom out and start to look at all of the factors. So I like to look at acne like this. There's all these internal factors. So we want to think about our diet, our stress levels, our gut health, our hormones, our water levels. In terms of nutrition, which I mentioned before, essential fatty acids, are we taking enough? Is there any deficiencies that we can get tested? That's a whole heap of them just to begin with, and there's so many more. Medications, supplements, the list really does go on. And then we want to look at externally. So what about our lifestyle that could be affecting our skin? The humidity levels or the dryness in the air. What do you do for work? Touching your face, makeup, skincare, practices that you might not even realize are affecting your skin, toxins in the household, allergies, that's more of an internal one, but you would find the allergies generally outside of you, right? So that's just a big handful of so many that you can delve into. So that's the approach I love my clients to take, and I hope that helps you too. It's just a little starting point, but I'm sure it will help you just a little bit more. Oop, my phone just locked. Let me jump back. So the next question is, do over-the-counter treatments work for acne? And by that question, I'm assuming this person meant more so, do treatments as in over-the-counter, so skincare from pharmacies and things like that. So here in Australia, we call them pharmacies. I know in America, they call them drugstores. I hope I've got that correct. But essentially over the counter. So we're talking about, Clearasil and Proactive and things like that. And to answer that question, it's very hard again. You know what? There are so many cases where beautiful clients of mine who I know of have gotten really good results using pharmacy-based skincare, which is amazing. I'm so happy for them. But then unfortunately, a majority of the cases, they go to the pharmacy and they kind of go to the skincare aisle and they're like, all right, anti-acne, look for the label anti-acne. And then there's a lot of marketing claims that can really mislead you. A lot of the skincare brands at pharmacies, from my opinion and my experience, don't tend to be that helpful. However, there are a lot of skincare lines that can be so helpful. So The Ordinary is a really good example for this. They have a lot of different ingredients and they might not be all helpful for all skins, but you can kind of find some little gems out of there. There are also other single items in different brands, and it really depends on your skin. So one person can go to the chemist or the pharmacy and just get all these over-the-counter skincare products from the pharmacy and have a lot of bad luck and even damage their skin further, whereas others can have some good luck because they've chosen the right ones for their condition. And they might have just gotten lucky and made some really good guesses, or maybe not, and it maybe only worked for a period of time. So many things to consider. But then we've also got over the counter, as in, I was going to say prescription drugs, but that wouldn't mean over the counter. That's a completely other question, and I do believe I'll get to address it in one of the other questions I have. So I hope that answers your question. And just to kind of differentiate, the skincare that you get at the pharmacy is generally not as active or sophisticated as you would get at a skin clinic and certain brands online. And I say this because it's kind of there for the general population, and we are seeing an improvement in these pharmacy type brands, but they might not have delivery systems, they might not be at higher percentages. When we have delivery systems and higher percentages of skincare, it makes things a little bit more risky. So I can understand why pharmacies and whatnot would be really careful in what they sell. So that's just my opinion, and I really do suggest, if you are wanting to treat your acne, don't only just go for a skincare brand. Seek guidance from a holistic skin therapist such as myself, a dermatologist, someone who can help you and guide you, because it's not just skincare when it comes to acne, like I mentioned in the other answer. So let's jump on over to this question. What should I ask my GP for treatment of acne, and what can they prescribe? So, as you know, I'm a holistic skin therapist. I'm not a medical professional, but I have had a lot of experience talking to medical professionals. I had a little bit of time in the nursing industry, and I understand what they generally do prescribe. So let me run through it for you. So when it comes to a doctor, they'll be able to prescribe a whole heap of things. So they might do topical interventions and internal interventions. So internal interventions is generally medication. So depending on your unique case, it might be oral contraceptive or other forms of contraception. It might be specific things to treat certain conditions within your body, hyper or hypothyroidism. There's so many internal conditions that could be related. So there might be those types of medications. They might also prescribe doxycycline, minocycline, or tetracycline, which are all different types of antibiotics that do have an effect on acne. They might also, in more extreme cases, recommend the drug Accutane. So from my knowledge, Accutane, or isotretinoin, which is the technical term, I don't think at this current moment in time, I don't think GPs can actually prescribe that. I'm fairly sure it is the dermatologist is the only one that can prescribe it, and it is on more of those severe cases. So your GP, if you're in Australia, your general practitioner will actually give you a referral to see a dermatologist, so they can actually help you a little bit more. But in less severe cases, you might see some of these pharmaceuticals being recommended. On the other hand, we've got all the topical interventions. So we have a very popular one that I see recommended all the time, and that is Epiduo gel. So that is a mix between benzoyl peroxide and adapalene. they're both ingredients that have been proven to help acne, which is fantastic. So adapalene being a vitamin A derivative, and benzoyl peroxide being an ingredient that is anti-cherolytic. So they're quite harsh ingredients and they do work pretty well. I have seen some people have quite good success with epidural. On the other hand, I've had some clients that have really, their skin has been so stripped back. And I honestly believe that there is a time and a place for it. And I wouldn't give it to somebody who has a compromised skin barrier. And unfortunately, I do see this a lot. Clients who come in to see me with an impaired skin barrier that are using this epidural gel that just seems to be making that whole condition a little bit more worse. So something to consider. There are definitely different types of other topical interventions a doctor might prescribe for you. Could be certain skincare items. I do see that every now and then. They'll often recommend things like Cetaphil or CeraVe, like non-fragrance, very gentle skincare products. So there's so many things that the doctor might do. And I do agree that they do provide some really good interventions, and definitely try it. If you feel really inclined and you feel like really comfortable with your doctor, then go for it. I do find people have success with doctors and some don't. And that's just down to so many factors. At the end of the day, acne is multifactorial. And if we can just address it with, say, those topical or internal measures, then fantastic. But it's not always the case. I have so many of my clients that come in and say, I've tried doxycycline, I've tried the pill, I've tried Accutane, I've tried all the medications and the topical medications, and nothing has worked. And that's when I can help them, because they've tried these things, it hasn't worked, and they're feeling a little bit lost. And because they don't get enough time with the doctor, it's just the way doctors run. Sometimes they need a little bit of a gentle, nurturing soul, such as myself, where we go through a 90-minute consultation and we look at everything else in their life that could be affecting their acne. So I find that to be a really helpful approach. And just to give you a bit of an idea. So medications, yes, can be great, but depends on the circumstance. So I know so many of my clients are really conscious of wanting to make the best decisions for their health, and not everyone feels comfortable with internal medical or pharmaceutical interventions. So that's okay. It's always up to you. You always get the right to ask questions and make the decisions that is best for your health. So I hope that clears things up a little bit more, and I'd be really happy to kind of delve into a little bit more about different how antibiotics work in the skin and oral contraceptives and all of that. I'm very happy to do that in a separate video. So if you're watching this, you want to hear from that, pop it in the comments below. So another question, which I think is so good, is, does diet actually make my acne worse? And there are a lot of things to say on this topic, but I will sum it up very quickly. So there's a lot of different opinions on this, and you'll get some people on one end of the spectrum saying, nope, diet has nothing to do with acne. Then you'll have people on the other end going, yes, absolutely. And I love to delve into the scientific papers to really back this up. But it can also be a little bit difficult in terms of reading nutritional data. When we're looking at nutritional papers, there's a lot of things that kind of come into play. But we do see certain specific food groups that do tend to have a negative effect. And I'm going to talk both based on, yes, scientific evidence that I've come across, and anecdotally, so what I see with my clients. So generally speaking, dairy tends to be inflammatory, and that is one that you might want to avoid. Refined sugars and refined carbohydrates. So that actually has an effect on the IGF-1 pathway. So making your sebum thicker and gluggier, increasing inflammation and altering hormones in a way. So I would avoid those foods, as well as, we want to start to look at, where are you potentially deficient? Are you really low in antioxidants? Because generally, if you have acne, you're also suffering with lipid peroxidation in your skin. And basically, if you've got lipid peroxidation, you're having a lack of these antioxidant, fat-soluble antioxidants. So you're really going to need a lot of antioxidants to counteract that and to get that inflammation under control in your skin. So that's a factor. Are you eating enough antioxidants? So your fruits and vegetables, and a big variety as well. What about your essential fatty acid intake? Are you getting a really fat-free diet, or is it really high in saturated fats or omega-6s? So many factors here, but generally when there is a really low amount of omega-3 in the diet, we do tend to see an aggravation of acne, and that's because with less omega-3s, we're getting a decreased barrier function, we're getting higher transepidermal water loss because the skin barrier and the cells within the skin and the multilamellar lipid bilayer is not able to function as well. So it's not holding in and retaining water within the skin, which turns into transepidermal water loss, which then turns into impaired enzyme function, which then turns into incomplete corneocyte compaction. And when the corneocytes, so the skin cells, aren't compacting correctly and they're not building a big, strong, healthy wall within your skin of skin cells, you can think of brick and mortar as a good example, we're going to have cornification disorders. So skin cells, piling on top of each other, creating more comedones. So yeah, we really want to consider having enough essential fatty acids. There's a lot of things that they kind of affect. We also want to look at your water intake. It relates exactly to what I said. So if your water intake is quite low, you're probably going to also have a lack of enzyme function in the skin, affecting all of those things that I just mentioned. So bit of a different perspective on this, but you really do want to look at diet. I truly do believe this, but my observation, and this is purely observation, so please take this how you will, but I have noticed that the stronger and healthier a skin gets over time, the more resilient it is to breakouts in the skin. So I know a lot of my clients that come in and they've got acne and they're really at the beginning of their journey, they express to me and they say things like, if I had the tiniest amount of dairy, I see a instant almost flare up in my skin. Whereas we have other clients who are down later in their journey and they say to me, I just had the bingiest weekend and my skin is still going pretty good. So I do find, the healthier the skin is, so that means improved barrier function, less inflammation, generally the skin will behave a little bit better. We also need to think about nutrition in terms of gut health. And we also need to think about nutrition in terms of hormonal health, because we do know those two factors, hormone disruption and gut health disruption, are also going to affect acne. And then we also need to think about what foods are driving inflammation in our body and what foods are potentially adding to our stress response, because we know that the stress response or nervous system activation, or another way to say it, sympathetic nervous system activation, so that fight, flight, and freeze. F3 is a nice way to call that. That will also aggravate acne. So we really want to consider things like, potentially reducing coffee if that is something that is hiking up your nervous system. For me, absolutely, that is a big one for me. So not for everyone, coffee can be really helpful. So there's factors there. And then if we want to look a little bit more alternatively, we can look at things like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. I'm going to talk about Ayurvedic medicine really quickly. So in Ayurvedic medicine, there's a traditional Indian medicine, and there is methodology, I should say, and they look at the body with three predominant doshas. So they're like body types, basically, and everyone has a constitution of three and their own unique balance. So you're generally one you're most prominent in. I won't go into the different what the differences are, but I'm going to give you an example. So you've got your kapha, your pitta, and your vata. And what I have just observed, this is not scientifically based, this is my observation that I have witnessed over the years, but I do find those who are pitta, so they're the hot and fiery dosha type, they do tend to have an exacerbation with their acne when they have hot, spicy foods that kind of inflame that body type. So something to consider. Maybe do a dosha test online, read into it and really understand what your dosha is, and potentially you can start to make little changes in your diet to really help, and they call it pacify, your dosha type. I am a testimony to this. I am a predominant vata, and I found that when I made changes in my diet and my lifestyle to essentially help with my vata deficiency that can kind of come up, and that's just through life, really. I found that that really helped just my overall health and well-being and my mental stability. So it's definitely something to consider. So there's so many factors that you really want to consider. And kind of to go back to gut health, is there a gut health issue behind the acne? Because maybe if that's the case, if you're eating a lot of sugar, that could be feeding the gut bacteria and causing more issues there. And of course, I just mentioned the IGF-1 pathway in regards to sugar as well. So it just depends. Oh, and lastly, allergies. If you're intolerant to something, it's probably going to be driving inflammation in your body and histamine response. So that again is going to drive acne. So it's about knowing your body and what your body works best with. It's 25 minutes into the video, and I am very well aware that it might be getting a little bit long, so I'm going to actually finish the video here. I do believe there's some really helpful questions that were asked, so thank you to everyone who sent those in. And yeah, if you have any more questions or you want me to do another Q&A, please let me know in the comment section. I just love being here with you all, chatting in a live setting and just being, myself and being able to express my thoughts. I do find that filming YouTube videos, it's a little bit more lonely, I do love it and I do it for you guys, but it's a little bit more tedious at times. And I just think it's so nice for you to see my personality and connect with me here. So give me your feedback. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you're not following me on Instagram and Facebook, then go on over there. Go follow me. It's Soul Awaken Skin Therapies. And I can guarantee you there'll be lots of helpful advice. Go scrolling and you'll see lots of different posts. And if you do want to get in contact with me, potentially if you're in Adelaide, Glenelg, around that area and want to come see me in the clinic, you're so welcome. I'd love to help you in 2021. I'm booked out for the rest of this year, but that's okay. 2021 is just on the horizon. And if you are an online client and you're hearing this and you're thinking about you want to see me and have an initial consult, I do offer those online as well. So jump on over to my website. It's www.soulawakenskintherapies.com. Super simple. All right, souls, have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'll see you next week for my video on how to treat acne at home. All right, so excited. Take care, and I'll see you then. Bye.